here. So yesterday we completed about the life cycle methods of being object. So what are the life cycle methods we can define as a developer whenever we want to achieve some functionality which has to be executed only once, like whenever bean object is created. So initialization method as well as destroy method we can define. So how many ways we can define? Yes, two ways. One is interface. Second one is annotation. What are the interfaces? Initializing bean and disposable bean. So as part of that, what are the abstract methods? After property set and then destroy method. So in case if we want to define our own methods, our own methods, and we want to make sure them with annotations, post construct and pre-destroy. So post construct in the sense after object creation calling. That's why they given name as post construct. After constructing the object, that method is going to execute. So that's why they given the annotation. Pre-destroy in the sense, before destroying that object, that method is going to be executed. So that is how you just need to remember. So when we will use generally, what is the purpose of lifecycle method in the sense? A requirement is demanding whenever a bean object is creating, immediately some logic has to be executed. So that means some logic has to be executed in the sense it might be anything like initializing values to our instance variables, maybe some logic you are making. Okay, some calculations you are doing based on that you are analyzing, you are assigning a value to your existing property. So anything. Once object is created, every time a logic has to be executed for that specific bean class. Then what you are going to use? Initialize method you can define for that bean class. So the method whatever executing, is it only for that bean class or is it going to reflect for other bean classes? The logic whatever is executed. Only for that bean class level, only for that bean object level, it is going to execute, right? So now let's come back to the runners. Runners in Spring Boot. So what is the meaning of runners in Spring Boot? So what is the overview of runners? Also, we will try to understand here also. Okay. So just I will give you first an overview and then we will understand practically also. Runners are interfaces provided by Spring Boot. Okay. By using runners, we can execute a logic. Okay. So immediately or right after, I'll write down like this, right after Spring application context is ready. So that means, what is the point I'm trying to say here? It is by using this runners concept, the predefined runners. Runners are interfaces in the sense predefined interfaces given by the Spring Boot framework. Okay. So by using these runners, what we can do? We can execute logic. So please understand, this is what important. Right after Spring application context is ready. So that means what is the meaning of Spring application context is ready? Once IOC container is getting initialized, when you are executing your application, internally whenever your IOC container is initialized and it is ready, then immediately if you want to execute a logic, generally those kind of logics we are going to write down inside the runners. By using runners, we are going to define that logic. So that means, so total two runners we have. Okay, which are predefined one. So one is command line runner. Second one is application runner. Okay, so I will tell you what is the real use of these runners once we are taking a small example. So where exactly you have to take these runners help in a requirement point of view. So where you have to introduce runners in our logic level, we will try to have a discussion. Okay. So before that, so first to this point we have to prove Spring application context is ready. Then whatever the logic we written inside the runner class in the sense the implemented classes. Now we are going to implement this interface and we are going to define a class and we will have some abstract methods inside this and we will override logic and that logic will be executed by, that logic is going to be executed right after Spring application context is ready. And that logic so that is Spring container or Spring framework internally, okay, executes runners implementation. Runners implementation in the sense what? The classes what we are going to write down to implement this interface and whatever the logic we are going to provide as part of the classes, okay, that logic is going to be executed by again whom? Spring container is going to, internally Spring framework is going to invoke your runner executions, invokes your runners. So now, when it comes to initialize method in the bean object level, are we calling manually or Spring container is calling your initialize method based on the annotation you given? Container is immediately. So we know we are not specifying something. Okay, you are not calling manually that object. For example, yesterday we written some methods. So are we calling those methods manually some from the is verifying whenever bean object is created, it is verifying like, okay, this guy has written any bean method, something like as part of life cycle initialization method by using either interface or annotation. If you are written by using interface, then it will execute which method? After properties set method, right? So if it is annotation, post construct method, whatever you declared, that will be executed. So who is doing all these activities internally? Again, Spring framework or Spring container is taking care, right? So now that logic, whatever is executed, is it common for, is it only specific to that bean level or not? Right? But when it comes to here, I'm saying a logic is going to be executed right after Spring application context is ready. So that means the logic which has to be executed, okay, commonly in entire our application level across all the bean objects or bean classes, those kind of logics where you are going to provide command line runners. So yesterday your initialization methods, when those methods are executed while you are starting the application or not? When you started the application, whenever bean object is created, immediately, so whenever bean object is created, immediately the lifecycle initialization method is called or not. Similarly here also, same kind of concept. Once you are starting your Spring Boot application, whenever Spring Boot application on context is ready, in the sense container is ready, immediately it will execute the runners what we provided. Okay, immediately those runners will be executed by the again Spring container internally, Spring framework internally. Okay, fine. But when it will execute after container is ready and how many times it will be executed is again, okay. So I'll give you one more point. Runners logic will be executed only once, okay, only once when we are starting our application. Okay, so runners logic will be executed how many times? Only one time. Those things are going to be executed when we are starting the application. So when we are starting the application in the sense, again, after, okay, I will just arrange it. So runners will be executed only once when we are starting our application. So once we are starting our application and when runners will be executed again internally, once your application context is ready, then runners will be executed. So these runners logic, whatever you are going to write down, is it specific to any bean classes or is it a common to all the bean classes? Yes, common to all bean classes. That's why we are not used, I haven't used any single word here, something like bean specific or bean. Okay. So we are just talking in entire things related to a logic of an application. Something has to be executed immediately. Container has to be ready. Once container is ready, something has to be executed. So that's what, even these things also, very rare case, you are going to use in real-time projects point of view, very rare case, but we have to know that. So for example, I'll give you a requirement. Okay, so load database. Okay, now let's do one thing. I'll give you it maybe a little bit complex requirement only. Just think, okay. So my requirement is send an email to application owner. Send an email to application owner once application is started successfully. So what is the requirement here? It is send an email to application owner. Application owner in the sense, generally, assume you have an application called as Flipkart. So generally, once your application, when you deployed your Flipkart application, assume it is a web application. Okay. So once you deployed your web application, so is it, do we have any guarantee always the application is going to start successfully? No, right? So what might be the problem? Maybe your code may have some compile time errors. Maybe some jar files are missing. Okay. Maybe database password is wrong. Maybe yesterday database password is one thing. Today is a different password. You forgot to change it. So then your application is going to start successfully. No, right? It is going to give some exceptions. So and so things are missing. No class definition exception, no jar file found, or database connection is not able to establish, right? So you may have any kind of problem. So it's not every time 100% your application is going to start. Assume your application is started. Now you're going to give a email notification to the respective application owner in the sense to some email ID. So for example, I have an email ID like at the rate ABC Flipkart.com. So now tell me, this kind of logic, can I execute by using runners? So what is the runners concept here again? Right after application context is ready. What is the meaning of application context is ready? So internally container is going to create and container is going to process all the bean objects and everything is good. Then it is going to create. Then it is going to execute the runners logic and all. So these kind of scenarios and this requirement, whatever I given here. So this requirement point of view, how many times I'm sending email? Like every time? I mean, every time in the sense, once application is deployed successfully. After that, are you sending email again and again to your owner of the application? No. Why you are just sending email is your application is started successfully. A simple notification. You are sending as a email. So then this functionality, the sending email functionality is going to happen every second. No, right? When this functionality is coming into the picture, when it is executing, whenever you restarted your application or maybe whenever you redeployed your application first time, whenever your application is deployed successfully in Tomcat server, then this email is going to trigger to the owner of that application, like abc@flipkart.com. So, okay, your application is deployed successfully. The email went to the owner. Now, this logic is going to be executed one more time. I mean, you are not restarted, you are not redeployed. It's properly running on the Tomcat server. So this logic is going to be executed one more time. No, right? For example, if you take bean initialization method, okay. So how many times bean initialization method will be executed? One time. When bean object is created by the container. So if it is a prototype equal to singleton, then how many times initialization method will be called? Only one time. If you given prototype, so that means initialization method will be called how many times? The n number of times you are requesting object from the container. Whenever container is creating, for example, you are calling 10 times. You need 10 times same student object. Scope equal to prototype. How many times bean object will be created? 10 times will be created. Now, tell me how many times initialization method will be called? Anyone tried with this option? Scope equal to prototype with initialization method? No, right? I know you don't do. So that's what I'm telling you. So please, yesterday I told you initialization method. I thought in my mind like, okay, these guys at least will practice or not with scope equal to prototype. I used to say like initialization method will be executed only once. Then immediately you have to think like if you given scope equal to prototype, bean object is creating again and again. Okay. So that means initialization method is going to call again and again or not. So have you observed that functionality? No, right? So just try. Okay, so this kind of, now in this case, is there any way relationship with the scopes and all? No. This is just blindly, once your application context is ready, container is ready, everything is good, then these logics will be executed. After that, these logics will never ever coming into the picture. So again, when these logics will be coming into the picture, that means execution point of view. Whenever again you restarted your application, redeployed your application, So at that time, these runners are going to be helpful. Okay, so let's see first of all how things are happening, and we will understand the difference between command line runner and application runner. Both will give same functionality, but there is a small difference. That's all. We will come back. Okay, so the application is, I'm creating a new application. So I'm just writing a couple of component classes. I'm not writing any command line runner as of now. I'll just tell you. So we need to understand the logic of runners will be executed when and all we will try to understand very clearly. So order Okay, so now let's come. I just written a component class of order, leave it. So I'll introduce why I written. Now let's come back to the runner implementation, how we are going to implement the runners implementation. So first of all, these runners are what? Classes or interfaces? Interfaces. They're given as a interfaces. So whenever we have to define logic for the interfaces, what we will do in Java? We will write down a class and we are going to implement that interface, right? So that means, what is the step number one? Create a class and implement respective interface. Like for example, we will take first command line runner interface. Okay. So inside this, it will have a overridden abstract method, single abstract method called as run method. We will see. So let's create a class, new class, and I'm just writing everywhere. Please make sure whenever you are taking a new package, make sure base package is available always. Okay, so for example, runner one I just taken as a class name, and what it is? Implements command line runner. Okay, command line runner. So interface used to indicate that a bean should run when it is contained with a Spring application. What is the meaning of Spring application in the sense? That's what the same in the internal application point of view. When you are having multiple command line runners, you have to use one annotation called as order annotation. I will come back. I will introduce that. So let's write down first. So add unimplemented methods. So that means our Eclipse is helping us. Yeah. So let's write down a sysout here. I'll explain internally how this run method is calling, what is the meaning of these arguments and all. I'll come back. So this is runner one. So what is the abstract method? Sorry, first of all, run method available from the command line runner. So you are implementing for the run method and return type is void. So this is runner one. So I'm just writing like this. Now observe here, this runner is going to be executed or not once my application is started. So I'll introduce second point here. So if you see here, runner is executed. Runner is executed. No, only your regular component bean object is created. Order class object is created. Runner is not executed. Only thing is, what you have to do is, runner is also a bean class. Runners are also should be provided as bean implementation. So what is the point here? It is should be provided as bean implementation. So how you are going to make sure a class has a bean class? By using, that's all, at the rate component. So that means in this case, what I'm going to write down? At the rate component, I'm going to write down on top of runners class level. So see here. So that means declare component annotation on runner class. But even though it is a component class, it's a special bean. These beans are executed now. How many times and at what time? Yes, these are special beans in the sense these beans are created with respect to runners functionality. These beans objects are created or the run method will be executed. Okay, whenever this application context is ready in the sense container is ready. So let's make sure. So here I am writing at the rate component. Okay, so now let's see, let's execute again. Yeah, so I'm executing now my application. I given a wrong option. Anyway, it's executed via Maven. Test cases pointer. Let it be completed. I don't want to break this. Okay, so let it. Run a Spring Boot application. Now observe. So observe here. So we know the meaning of application context is ready in the sense container is ready. So generally what container will do internally, whenever we started our application, as of now, yes, till yesterday what we understood, container is ready, then immediately it will create objects for all our bean classes, bean methods, whatever we written, right? So then your container is full-fledged ready. Container is ready. When it is ready, once it is processing all bean classes, whatever you written, something like component classes, bean methods, whatever you written as part of the project level. So everything is created by the container. Then container is going to, then container is ready. Then we are saying like container is ready. When once it is processing all component classes, bean methods, and all bean objects are created for student, order, employee, okay, ABC, XYZ. So then every bean object is initialized, whatever you written based on the annotations, then container is ready. Now understand here, first bean objects are created and then runners are executed. So now from this point, so once application context is ready in the sense, what is the point you understood now? Generally we know that point. Application context is ready in the sense, yeah, till yesterday what we understood. Internally container is created and then container will process all component classes, and bean methods. That means processing in the sense what it is doing, creating bean objects. Creating bean objects. Okay, so then we are saying like application context is ready. So now in interview they will ask you, so when a runner class will be executed, like before bean objects creation or after bean objects creation? Yes, after bean objects creation. So when you're saying like Spring container application context is ready in the sense that Spring container internally scans all component classes and it will create bean objects for every classes, whatever you configured at the rate bean or whatever the stuff we know till yesterday. So it will process all bean objects. Every bean object is good. Then what it will do? It will come back to the runners. Once all the bean objects are created, then it will come to the special classes, whatever you implemented as a runner's point of view, those things will be executed automatically. Now this run method logic is executed automatically or not? So that is what the meaning of runners here it is. Now for example, if I created one more bean class like product, so first product object will be created or not? Okay. So what happened again here? All the bean objects are created first and then runner is coming into the picture. So don't say like in interviews or wherever it is, runner is going to be executed. So they will confuse you generally. So once container is created, immediately bean objects will be created or runner will be executed. Yes, first thing is bean objects will be created, then the runners, whatever you written as part of your application, then only runners will be executed. For example, assume while order object is created, you got some exception. While order object is created, you got some exception. Then runners are going to be executed? No. So that's the kind of requirement I given here. So when you are starting application in the sense, assume somewhere I will try to break it. How to break it? So is it going to break? Why no? You given big shout. So why it is going to break? Application, functionality. Yeah, there is no default constructor. You provided single parameterized constructor and are you providing any default value for this? So if you want to provide, what is the concept? At the rate, value annotation. So I'm not giving anything right now. So what happened now? So same thing, I mean expected. But now my point here it is, it's expected. So runners are executed now? No, right? So that is what the point you have to remember here. And what I will do, I'll write down one more sys out. Yes. I will add a couple of statements. So only thing is this is what you have to remember this flow. Okay, so let me execute it one more time. So understand the flow, how things are happening one by one. Okay, let me change it. So now you guys are clear first of all. So runners are going to be executed in case if your application context is not ready, runners are going to be executed. No. So that means application context ready in the sense it has to process all component classes, bean methods without any issues. Then your context is ready means container is ready. Then it is going to execute the runners, whatever you implemented. So that's why you cannot see any output here, which is executed from the runner's point of view. Okay, let me make it normal default constructor. Okay, save it. Now, okay, all beans will be created successfully and runners will also be executed. So let's see now the order. So what is this? Okay, let me just summarize it. Flow of runners execution. So what before application context is getting ready. So generally in our Spring Boot application context, Spring Boot application, when your container is getting created and when your container is getting processed, at what line? No, at the end Spring Boot application is annotation. Spring application dot run method. That's what the run method is very important. Yeah, from this class, annotated class, but it's all about when this line is executed. This run method is making a lot of things in the background. So here your container and everything is getting created and everything. So now here your container in this line number 10, you got the output. So line number 11, internally it is creating container object, processing bean objects, component objects, and everything is happening at line number 11. So then you are getting the container object successfully at line number 11. Now see the output here. Okay, let me write down first here everything one place. Okay, now observe here in which order it is executed. First, application context is ready in the sense before application context is getting ready. So once application context is ready in the sense internally container is ready, then what it done? It created bean object for the order. It created a bean object for the product. Then runner is created. Why runner object is created now? You return again it as a component class. But immediately runner is executed, some logic is executed as a runner point of view. Why this specifically, this runner one bean object is specifically executed this logic? You implemented the component class with the command line runner interface, and whatever the interface you implemented command line runner interface, it is having an abstract method called as run method. That run method is going to execute immediately once your bean object is created for that runner class. Okay. And then finally, runners are before writing this line itself, your container is ready or not? Just after that only you are reaching this line, printing this line. So this is how the runners will be executed. Now, the point here it is, why they given arguments here? What is the meaning of arguments here? How can we pass values to these arguments? This method is executed by the whom? Internally, container always. We are not calling this method from anywhere else. Then, how can we pass values to these arguments? Why they given arguments and all? Let's try to understand it here. So generally what is happening in the once Spring application.run method is executed, Spring application.run method, whatever the run method we have. So once it is executed, internally they are verifying are we written any runners or not. Okay, as part of run method execution, okay, Spring Boot application is verifying runners implemented or not. So are we implemented this time? Runners, yes, we implemented one. What it is? Runner one. Like that we implemented one. So then immediately what run method is doing? Okay. So whatever the command line arguments, now come back to the main method. My first question here it is, can I pass command line arguments to this main method? Think in a simple Java point of view. So can we pass these arguments to the main method? So generally these arguments will be called as what in Java? When you are learning Java, when they are explaining about main method and when they are explaining about the string array, this will be called as command line arguments. So for this array, how we are passing the values generally? By using command prompt, by use from the command line Java class name space, and you are giving the command line arguments value 1, value 2, value 3, like that you are passing. It's same thing. Even when I am executing this main method, in case if I passed any command line values, those values are immediately passed into the who? Run method, right? Now internally run method is going to do what it is going to do. So that means now whenever your Spring Boot application is ready, okay, assume you executed application like this, Java, okay, the class name, this is the class name, right? And here 1 space 2 space 3, like that I given the values. Now how many command line arguments are given? Total 3 values I have provided here. Now what will happen? These 3 values are passing to the main method. First of all, main method of the class. So what is our main method? This is what, right? Everywhere main method is same. So immediately these 3 values are passing to the main method. Okay, so these 3 values are now passing to the arguments, string array of arguments or not? Yes. Now these arguments are immediately passing to the run method. Now run method is passing those arguments to the runner run method arguments. Now you got the point. What is the point? What is the string array of arguments here as part of run method? From where you are getting these values now? From where you are getting these values? Finally, these values, whatever you are receiving in the runner one run method level, these values, what is the source of these values? From where it came? When you executed the program, whatever the command line argument values you given, those values finally are passing to the runners or not? Yes. So that's the advantage of runners here. Okay, that is what the advantage of runners here. So now you can say one thing, sir. Anyway, runner is a component class. Run method is executing only once. Okay, only how many times it is executing? Run method only once. Now, if I take in a bean class, leave about the runner sometime. I take in a bean class like component class, and I made scope equal to prototype, and I return initialization method. How many times it will be executed? How many times initialization method will be executed for the component class? Only one time, right? Scope equal to singleton by default. How many times initialization method will be executed? Only one time. So is it going to create second time by any chance? Even though if it is a web application, think like that. So by any chance, is it going to create one more object? Because scope equal to singleton, right? So only one bean object will be created for that ID. Now in this case, what is the difference between runner versus component initialization method? I mean bean lifecycle initialization method. So in initialization method, can we pass any values, whatever you received at run method level or command line arguments to run method 2, you want to pass to the initialization method of the bean class. Is it possible? No, but in runners, they given. So for example, assume there is a requirement. Now, as part of this requirement, this email ID dynamically you are going to pass always from the command line arguments. Then what you will do? Java. So the application name, whatever you return. Okay, you executed your application like this. Now this email ID is going to come to your runner method or not? Yes, obviously. So what is going to happen now? This is what you are passing in the same manner, same way. Just now this email ID value coming to the main method. Now from main method to run method of Spring application. Internally it is defined. From here, run method is passing these arguments to the runner run methods also. This is the advantage of runners actually. Okay, taking the dynamic data, whatever you given at command line level, whenever you processed your Spring Boot application, whenever you started your Spring Boot application, so it's a main method in the sense, this is the step is going to happen or not in the background. Starting Spring Boot application. So this is what Eclipse is doing always in the background, right? So if you are not given command line arguments, array size will be 0. You know all those points. Okay, now let's see how I am passing values to our main method. How can we pass in Eclipse? Have you ever tried in Java point of view how to pass command line argument values? How you are going to pass values to this string array? Right click on the application, runtime, run configuration. Yeah. Arguments here or here? Program arguments or VM arguments? Okay. So let me give abc@flipkart.com. So how many values are given here? Only one value. If you want, you can give another value with space. Some value I given. Okay. Or some contact number, assume like that. Okay. Apply and run. So now those values are going to be passed to this array level or not? Yes. So before that, think in Java point of view first. It's a simple Java concept first. Okay. First of all, we are verifying. Okay, so let's do one thing. I can write down for loop also, but anyway. So the values are passed? No. Sorry? Why the data is gone? Generally, it will save permanently, right? I think apply, then it has to keep permanently. Apply. But anyway, you saw both values or not? Generally, these values will be saved permanently. I mean, yeah, it's there now. Okay, anyway. Why it removed again contact number? Giving ABC is fine, but why it's not printing? But anyway, so just give me a second. Why it's not taking 1, 2, 3, 4? Even we given 0 index, email ID, 1 index. Earlier it is printed. I don't know what's happening in Eclipse. Anyone of you can help me? Yeah, it's not. Space, one space is enough, right? Yeah. Sorry? Enter. If it is enter, then in case with space, that value has to take, right? I don't think it is enter. Okay, we'll try. I mean, otherwise we will just anyway. If you just try with it. Anyway, we are getting one value. We will check this value is really coming at command line or not. I mean, runner level or not. Instead of wasting all our time, I'll just try one time. But earlier it is printed 1, 2, 3, 4. You saw right? But after the second time onwards, it's not. I don't know. Maybe cache or whatever it is. Okay, so leave it. I mean, anyway, one value we are getting, you just try on your own. I'll make sure. Okay, when I'm running as run as Java application, it is doing. Instead of run as Spring Boot app. Okay, there is a problem. Okay, Spring Boot point of view, it is taking differently. It is taking some other properties also. Okay, run as Java application. If you just do the run as Java application, then you are getting your both properties. Okay, and it is getting everything is created fine. Okay, let's click at, I mean, run as Java application. I don't know what is happening with Spring Boot app. Okay. Okay, so anyway, leave it. So run as Java application, and you are seeing both the values. Now our point here is whatever the values you pass it, those things will come to the main method arguments, and those are immediately passing to the run method. Now run method, what it is doing? It is passing same values to the runner run methods also. So let's see in run method level. Sending email to person. So how to define Verox index? Verox. What is this 3 dots? Verox. What is the difference between Verox and arrays? So when you have to go for Verox, when you have to go for array. It's taking somehow a different, somewhere in the Eclipse level only it's problem. ANSI enabled always. If I return here 1, I will write down. It's 0 only, but only make sure you are executing your application as Java application, not as Spring Boot application in this specific scenario. I will identify is it problem from what and all. So where some property maybe somewhere some checkbox we need to uncheck or something. Okay, I will identify that root cause why it's stay where from where it is taking some ANSI console something. Okay, meanwhile you just try with and command line arguments can be passed to the initialization methods. No, that's the advantage of runners here. So when you want to get some dynamic data, whatever you are passing to the main method, the data you have to utilize to execute the logic only once. Then what is the option you have? Runners concept we have. So your logic has to be executed only once. And okay, and you are not taking any dynamic input from the command line arguments or whatever it is, then you can retain your own component class and make sure that scope as a singleton. Then also initialization method is going to give same behavior or not? Same behavior. So that's how small differences will be there. If you are identifying that, then you got clear answers. So now your requirement is completed or not? So how many times this logic will be executed now in this case? Only one time it will be executed. It will never ever again call this run method because it's implemented from the command line runner interface point of view. Okay, fine. Now what is the difference between application runner versus command line runner? Okay, there is nothing much difference. Okay, so very small difference. Command line runner is a old interface, and after that they implemented one more interface called as application runner. Okay, so what is the benefit of application runner is somewhat extended version of command line argument. I will create a new runner for that, but concept is same. Some extra features you are going to get in the application runner. So I'm making this one also as a component. Okay, implements application runner. So only thing is the abstract method is going to be different here. So again, method is run method. But what is this? Same arguments. Okay. In this case, what happened here it is how Spring Boot is what Spring Boot is implemented internally. Okay. So if it is command line runner, so if it is command line runner, so how you received the values? The copy, whatever you got at the main method, same copy pass it to the run method. Copy in the sense, in which format you got the data? String array. Same string array pass it to the run method. Now run method, what it is doing? It is passing again same run method to the run method of command line runner. But if you observe here, they just made it as kind of some application, some object. So what, now guess what they are doing internally? What run method? Here also run method only going to call your application runner and execute this run method. Okay, run method to run method. But only thing is what they are doing in this specific scenario. So they are taking these arguments values in the run method, and run method is doing taking a class help here called as application arguments. They are creating object for this. Object is created here, and inside this object, what they are storing? The command line values, whatever you are passing. Instead of giving as, see, simple command line runner level, how you are getting the command line argument values as a string array. If it is application runner, you are getting as a array or object, an object, that's all. So they are reading this values from the array, and inside this object, setting array values of command line arguments. That's all difference. Instead of giving as an array, they are providing as an object if it is application runner. Okay, I written very small. I forgot to increase the size. Only thing is, I will just make sure as an object you are going to get. As a object, getting what data? Getting data of command line arguments. That's all. Oh, forgot. Again, I forgot. Okay. So anyway, I'll write down. Command line argument values are passing as passing as an object. Okay, and the class name is application arguments. So that means same kind of object. Okay, but if it is runner, just same array, passing as an array of values. That's all. Simple, guys. To avoid the array index out of bounds exception and all, they given this. You can understand like that. Is it true or not? So to avoid the array index out of bounds exception, some kind of thing, they given the object. So objects and all you can write down. Some null checks, all these things and all you can write down. So that's the advantage between application versus these things. Anyway, let's write down logic here also. Understand, I will introduce one more point now. One more new annotation will come. Runner 2 is created. Nowadays, object, then how can you get the values of command line arguments? The same command line arguments are going to be passed to this run method or not now? Yes, because whatever you are passing to the main method, those are all coming to the Spring application run method. Now Spring application run method is calling this application runner run method. So now whatever you given abc@flipkart.com, those values are available inside this object or not? So if you want to get data from the objects, generally what are the ways you have? Either if it is a public variable, object name dot variable name. If it is a methods you have, like something like getter methods, right? So observe any methods available or not. What is this? Get source arguments. See here, they given again array only. The return type is what? Again array. So if you are calling extra method, then again they are saying like, see that's what? Command line runner is just raw array. Now application runner is they wrapped with some object. And but in the originality, again in the back, what they are keeping again? Array only. So right? So if you just take here again, what you're going to get? Array of values. Let's do one thing. I'll make sure they are making extra work to us. Okay, so data of, I'm not writing much lines. You just understand. You got the difference between command line and application runner. So simply they just given as a, they are showcasing as an object, but internally again in the object they are keeping again as array of values only. Okay, so anyway, let's see here now. Okay, I'm executing my main Spring Boot application one more time. Let's execute it as Java application. Oh, Koteswara, that you have to say what is the difference between array and arguments. Where else? It's core Java concept. I asked whether you know or not. It's not like I'm going to teach. It's a core Java concept. I asked like you guys are having knowledge or not. Okay. So understand here. What is this? Runner to run method. So you got the same data or not again? In runner 2 also, you got the same data or not? In runner 1 also, you got the same data or not? This is runner 1 method, runner 1 method, you got the same data. So that means if you return 100 runners, just name, okay, example wise, the same command line arguments what you pass it to the Spring Boot main application, main method level, those 100 runners are receiving same values or not? Yes. So that's why the same run method is just what it is doing. Okay, runner 1 is available. Let's pass values, whatever I came here, whatever pass it by the main method. So if you return one more runner, same values here passing. If you return one more runner, same values are getting passed to the runners. So in our application, how many runners we can write down? How many runners we can write down? Any number, or already we written 2. That means more than 1. That means any number of runners we can write down. So every runner is going to receive same command line argument values, whatever you pass it to the Spring Boot main method application. So every runner is going to receive same values or not. So that is what the advantages of runners here. When you want to take some data from the command line arguments, okay, generally very rare case. Some cases what people will do in real-time applications, when they are, for example, assume this email ID is going to change. I mean, it's a varied application example only. This email ID is going to change every time when you are restarting your application, or you are going to pass dynamically this email ID whenever you are starting your Spring Boot application. Then what is the option you can take? Command line. Properties, if you given properties when? Properties is all going to take. Properties also one of the option. But if you want to pass always, you should not modify the source code. You have a war file. You have a jar file of Spring Boot application. Okay, you are executing something like Java, Spring Boot application space, something like that. Without touching source code, like dot properties or whatever it is, you have to send a dynamic data. Then what is the option? Command line argument. I given, you say like, sir, we can use properties file. Yes, that is the solution. But I'm saying like, even don't touch the properties file. But I have to pass always email ID value as a different value. Sometimes ABC, sometimes XYZ, but don't modify the properties file. But still I have to pass value dynamically. Then what is the option? Command line arguments. So this is how things you have to understand. Okay, let's see here. Now, 2 runners are executed or not? How many runners executed? Runner 2 executed. Runner 1 is created. Runner 2 is created immediately. Immediately, runner 2 is executed, and as well as runner 1 also executed or not? Okay, fine. Now, how do you make sure? Assume, for example, I have 5 runners. I can write down any number now. Runner classes. Okay, runner 1 I have and runner 2 I have. So now I want to make sure order of execution. For example, if what we in our application, if you observed or not, let's do one thing. What I will do, I'll write down runner C. I mean copy paste Control V. I'm writing one more runner. Runner 4. Yeah, I'll write down. So I just written how many runners I written now? 3 or 4? Yeah, 3 I written. Okay. But name I just given as 4. I know the reason. But total how many I written? 3 runners I written. So how many runners will be created? How many? All 3 run methods will be executed or not? Yes, run as Java application. Okay, in this case, let's see the output. Runner 1 is created. Runner 2 is created. Runner 4 is created. Okay. First, which one is executed? 4 is executed. Then runner 1 is executed. No. Where is the runner 2? Okay, runner 2, run method. Okay. Anyway, so first 4 is executed, then 1 is executed, then 2 is executed. Now, let's take the class names here. First, which one is executed? 4. And then runner 1. And then runner 2. So this is the order you saw, right? So let's execute one more time, run as Java application. If you see here again, runner 4, runner 1 is executed, runner 4 is executed, runner 2 is executed. So is it following any order this time? No, but I want to make sure, okay, step number 1, step number 2, something like that. First, your requirement is demanding, first this runner has to be executed. From that, you are getting some results. Maybe just think like that. Something is happening. After that, you have to execute one more runner. In a sequential order, whenever you started your Spring Boot application, every time it has to follow same order. It should not take its own order. It has to follow always same order. Runners has to be executed in the same order. Okay, whatever you define. Okay, this has to be executed at first. And this has to be executed always in the second. This has to be executed in the third. That means container has to execute which one first? Every time it has to be executed first. And then runner 2 has to be executed first. Okay, and then runner 1 has to be executed here. So like that, whenever you started your Spring Boot application, every time same order has to be followed. Same order has to be followed here. Then what you are going to do here it is, go to the runners. You have one annotation called as @order annotation. Okay, so now what I am doing, runner 4 has to be executed always first. Let's give order annotation and define one value here. So what is the value? One value here. So have you guys remembered load on startup? In Servlet's web application, web.xml file level, a servlet has to be created in an order. There also you can give priority. Servlet objects has to be created. And whenever, generally servlet object will be created at what time? When you are sending request first time or not? For example, your servlet object has to be created when you started your Tomcat server itself. Without sending first request itself, I have to create servlet object. Do you have any option? Servlet, while Tomcat server is started, then itself your servlet object has to be created before sending the first request. Do we have any option? My point here it is, first of all, the teaching all these points, are you forgot or they are not taught? They are not given. So load on startup is the tag will be there. So if you given minus values, so it will take as the highest priority and that object will be created without sending first request itself. For example, you have servlet 1, servlet 2, servlet 3. Okay, like ABC, servlet, XYZ servlets I have. I have to create XYZ servlet object first and then ABC servlet object second. This is interview question. Then what you will answer? It's a load on startup concept. There is a tag called as load on startup. If you given load on startup, integer value 1 for the ABC configuration, okay, then ABC object will be created first. If you given load on startup 2, then XYZ object will be created 2. If you given load on startup 1 for the XYZ, then XYZ will be created first. Okay, like that, you have a concept. Load on startup concepts and all. Similarly, same concept, that's what. If people are teaching properly in Spring, servlets level, the Spring core module is almost similar to servlets concept only. Okay, anyway, order 1 I given here. And what is our requirement is 2 has to be executed in the second place always. Let's go to the runner 2. And here what you have to give? Order 2. And runner 1 is the last, right? Okay. Order 3. Okay, now let's execute your application one more time. So what it is? Runner 4. And then execution point of view we are talking. Runner 2. And then runner 1. So let me execute 2 to 3 times. Same order or different order. Observe here. Runner 4, runner 2, runner 1. So if you execute 1000 times now, it is going to follow same sequence order of runner's execution. Then what is the help you are taking? Order. Simply you are telling to the container, don't go with your own execution of runners, whatever you want. Okay. So please follow my order. Like that you are giving the order. Okay. This has to be take first place. This has to be in the second place. This has to be in the third place, like that you are reviewing. Now can we give negative values or not? Okay, let's do -2 I given. Integer values I can pass here. Okay. So now tell me which one will be executed first. Why -2? -2 is generally in our real life. -2 is less, right, when comparing with the 1. -1 is less than 1. So that means priority is very less, right? When comparing with positive, minus is very less priority, right? So now runner 2 is executed at last, right? That is what your expectation, right? But runner 2 is going to have highest priority now. Okay, that's how even load on startup property is defined in your servlets also. When you given -1 for any servlet, when you given 1, 2, 3 for 100 servlets, which servlet will be executed first? Which servlet object will be created first? The -1 value, whatever you given. For example, you given -100, okay, -2, -1. Now, which servlet object will be created again? -2. Yes, the less number of you are giving minus, okay, that will have highest priority. Now, tell me in this configuration, which runner will be executed first? I given now this time, here, -2 I given. So that means, even though you given highest priority, whatever it is, you given positive values here, okay, first it will verify minus values. So it will give priority to runner 2. If it is positive values 1, then priority given to runner 4 and then runner 1. So negative values are having highest priority. Okay, let's execute. Now runner 2 has to be executed first. What is executed now? Runner 2 is executed first. Why? You are given highest priority for the runner 2, and how you are giving highest priority? -2. These are all things I don't know. I mean, if you understood these things in the servlets, it's very easy. Okay, so can we use order annotation for component classes if you want to execute in same order every time? No. That's a different purpose you have, Swami. Okay. But component level you cannot use. You can use it, but that is a different purpose. When you want to collect same component objects, for example, you have order objects. Okay, you can use component level also, like @order. But whenever you created 5 bean objects of order, and whenever you want to collect those 5 bean objects as a list of order objects, okay, and in the list level, index 1, index 2, index 3, you have list, right? You have list index, right? So, index 0 level, index 1 level, which order object has to be stored first, second, third, then order is going to, you are going to use in such cases. But it's not like order is going to not define. See, here also I told you one point. Order annotation is coming into the picture while runner objects are created or runner objects are executed. No. Executed. I am keep on saying like executed. See, runner objects are created. 4 is created. 1 is created. 2 is created in order wise. But execution wise, 2 is created, executed. 4 is executed. 5. So that's what the requirement I told you. The order of execution. I'm not saying like creation. Okay, the order of execution. So what is the annotation? Order annotation used for achieving creation or executing. Executing runners in a sequential order. Okay, so negative values will have always. Yes. If I am the person of teaching advanced Java, by keeping Spring things in my mind, okay, so I will teach all these things there itself. Then it will become very easy for me to teach in Spring. And then I will say like load and startup is equal to order of Spring bean up, runners level. That's all. Your explanation is completed. That's all. Planning of training is also like, yeah, just, I don't know. I don't want to enter more about Naresh, I think. But at least whenever they are teaching, they should keep these things in their mind. If they are teaching, then they are good, then they are bad. Okay, don't say like, okay, the reason is if they are not teaching, definitely it's not a good approach. So whoever it is, if they are teaching and you forget, and I don't want to blame them, I need to blame you people if you are forgetting. The thing is, see, here it's not all about the blame game. The thing is, when you're good at one concept, is it becoming automatically the upcoming concepts are getting very easy or not? Now, who knows the load on startup in entire classroom? They will say like, sir, this concept I already know in servlets. Is it equal to servlets only? No need of much explanation also. That's what. Highest priority. Even go and refer servlets. These things will, if I am the panel, I will ask these questions in interview. So how servlets object is creating? Yesterday also you told, whenever I asked about servlets, everyone said like, whenever we are sending the first time request, servlet object will be created. I remember that point. That's why today I asked, without first request, servlet object has to be created by default when you are loading your servlet application. Then what is the tag you have to take? Load and startup concept is there. If you given that, then your objects are created. Okay, that's all about the Spring Boot. So core module. So we will take tomorrow Spring JDBC. Spring JDBC or Spring Boot JDBC. Core module